Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond. Wait a second. I've been thriving loud my entire life. When the heck am I going to be a guest on one of these shows? Lou Diamond? Sounds like a motivational country singer if you ask me.
It's time to take an inside look at those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I am your host, Lou Diamond. Today on Thrive Loud, we have international best-selling author, founder of bestsellerpublishing.org. He has been featured on ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, and the Wall Street Journal, or pretty much anywhere you can turn on a television. Rob has spoken to and taught thousands of entrepreneurs, coaches, and consultants how to stop hunting for clients and instead position themselves as the hunted. He's actually here today, according to his pre-show notes, to talk about how great Lou Diamond is. So this is definitely going to be awesome, and I got to hear it. Thrive Loud listeners from Pasadena, California, Mr. Rob Kosberg. Rob, how are you today, my friend?
Big Lou. So happy to be with you, man. Thank you so much.
So Rob and I have a very good connection, and that is that a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I decided I wanted to communicate to the world and write a book. And nobody had this message down better and how to not only write a book, but also market and connect your message to the world. And he really had a great marketing story. And in fact, his company was the company that actually published my first book, which was pretty cool. And from that book, there's been this whole media onslaught of Lou Diamond and Thrive Loud and all this other stuff. And when it comes full circle when his own promotional marketing team is shipping people to come on Thrive Loud. So I said, obviously,
I love it.
I said, there's no way in the world I'm taking any author from bestseller publishing until I get Rob Kosberg on the show. And that is why he is here today. So Rob, first of all, that is, aside from the fact you're a pretty fun, great, thriving guy. So I thought you'd appreciate that opening.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, I was like, oh, it's so great to get that email. I'm like, of course, I want to be on your show. Let's do this. And it is funny and coincidental, though, right? I mean, I have Eva Marie and Bianca. They're our full-time publicists, and they didn't even know that you were a client, and they're reaching out to you. I'm like, Lou, of course. So it's so fun. I got your book right here on my desk, sitting right here.
Well, so here's the key thing for the Thrive Loud listeners. Rob Kosberg has one heck of a story and is one sharp, on-the-money entrepreneur and businessman that takes advantage of he's the definition of taking lemons and making lemonade. So I think the Thrive Loud listeners would love to hear, not from me, but from you, a little of your journey and your story, because I think how you got onto the track that you're on is pretty cool. So can you do that for a while and flip the script here? Because you love to host and talk all about your authors. So I think this will be fun for you to share a little bit about your journey.
I love to. Thank you. And yeah, my journey wasn't really fun. It was a lot of things, but it wasn't really fun. It's funny. It's literally right at 10 years ago that I started writing my first book, and ended up closing my business down at the time. That was kind of the end of one chapter, so to speak, and the beginning of a new one. And I, as you know and you've heard, I had a pretty successful run in real estate. I lived in South Florida. My companies were doing over $100 million a year in transactions, primarily in luxury and rental real estate. And when the financial crisis hit, that business went from $100 million a year in transactions to zero. Right. And wow, that was unexpected. There I was in my early 40s at that time. Kind of licking my wounds. It was a big hit, as you might imagine. I got 3 kids in private school. I had all the trappings of earning that kind of money and living in a big house, an equestrian center and all that. And now I was trying to figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life, at 42. So, I was fortunate in that I was in a couple of mentorship groups, mastermind groups, and I asked a couple of key people what they would recommend if they were in a position like I was in. I mean, I left real estate. I decided to start in financial services, which that was a mistake, although it was necessary for the time being, but it was too close akin to real estate for me. And I was really looking for a bigger change. But I said, I'm totally unknown in that field. What would you do if you were in my position? And both of them separately said that they would write a book. And so something rang true that, okay, this can't be coincidental. I never thought of writing a book before. I really never did. I think I probably squeezed by with a C- in English in high school. And but it rang true. And so, I kind of made every mistake in the book, if you will, at that time in writing it. Took me longer.
I'll stop you because you didn't make one mistake.
Yeah.
The one mistake you didn't make was you happen to have had what I thought and still think is one of the best titles of a book. And maybe you can lead into that because I think it also is a good segue into, I guess, what ended up happening next. So share exactly how the title of the book came together.
Yeah. I'm a marketing person. I think by nature, sales and marketing is kind of what I am more than I am a promoter or certainly a publisher. But, the first book that I wrote is called Life After Debt. And of course, this is in 2008 and 2009. And what was everybody in? It's obviously a play on words, life after death. And the kind of debt that many of us were in at that time felt like death. And so the play on words was a little bit catchy. And most of the clients that I worked with, or at least the field that I was entering, were working with business owners, and business owners were really struggling with debt that they had accumulated, whether it was mortgage debt, real estate debt, or, just debt on their businesses. And so we did everything from insurance and annuities to, regular financial services, even some of the more extravagant things at that time, like loan modification and debt settlement and those types of things. And, I used that little book. I guess, like you said, the one mistake I didn't make was the title. It was pretty good. And I used that little book to start getting media. Actually, radio was kind of my big break. I sent it out to all the local radio stations. I didn't have any money really to market myself, just a few $100 I was, kind of pulling together. And I sent it out to all these local radio stations. And I said, hey, look, I'm an expert author on this subject, as evidenced by my 77-page book that I just sent you. And, perhaps because of what's going on in the world right now, you should have me on your show. And, I got a couple of nibbles, and within a week or so, I actually was scheduled to be on a radio show. I did like a 4-minute segment where, they asked me some questions. I was kind of, I'm pretty good on the fly. I have a face for radio. So there you go. I was rolling with it. And, I didn't know how well it did immediately, right? You don't get feedback immediately. But that night, what I did, which, looking back was genius, but you never know, right? But what I did was, I offered anybody that called into the radio show or called my office, and I gave my office telephone number. I said, if you call me, I will ship you a free copy of the book and free shipping. No charge for anything. Just call me, say that you want it, and I'm sending you a physical version of the book. I didn't know what I was doing. That was before these free plus shipping funnels and certainly before social media and Facebook. And, we had a bunch of telephone calls, and I remember I was sitting in my office that night. It was about 6:00 at night. I'll never forget it. And I was, late working, hustling, trying to make things happen. And I get this telephone call, and I answer it. And, I'm like, Crown Financial, can I help you? And I said, this is Rob, can I help you? And the woman on the other line said, is this Rob Kosberg? And I was thinking, oh man, do I owe you money? What, what is this about? And I said, yes, it is. And she says, wow, I can't believe I'm speaking to you. I heard you on the radio today. You're the author, right, of Life After Debt. And I was like, yeah. And we talked for about 20 minutes. She became my client. It was about a $6,000 agreement. And, I thought to myself, I may be onto something here. And literally in the next year, I started doing radio. I ended up getting my own radio show with that exact same process. I gave the book away for free, and I built this business from $0 to $1 million in the first year in this horrible economy. I mean, horrible economy, and worst I'd ever seen. And then multi-millions thereafter until the point that I sold it and I started Bestseller Publishing back in 2011. I actually had both companies at the same time for a while.
So let's just jump in here. And this is actually really cool because what was interesting and intriguing, and one of the things that you promote in the move from the finance business into the publishing business, and you were making ends meet to try to figure out the work, and you recognized an amazing idea of how the power of marketing. But you also recognized what a pain in the butt it is, so to speak, and how hard it is to get your book published and get your book out there into the world. And there's got to be a better way to do it. So I think you took this marketing savviness that you've always had and shifted it. Share with the listeners a little bit about the philosophy of what Bestseller Publishing does, because I think that is actually going to help bridge the gap and help connect everybody here as to, hey, look what this guy did, and what a smart way of recognizing the power of not only marketing, but the power of connecting all of that together.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for saying that. I think in some ways I backed into this, right? I listened to advice from smart people that successfully did their book and stumbled my way along, failing forward, so to speak. And the start of Bestseller Publishing was very organic. I mean, these business owners that I was helping, with my financial services company were coming to me like, how are you doing it? How are you exploding your business in this terrible economy? What are you doing? And can you help me to do it too? And of course, I simply told them I didn't know if I could help them at that time, but I'm doing it with a book, and I'm using the book to position myself as an expert and authority. And of course, I didn't go into, there's so many details and so many mistakes, but the truth of the matter is the book took me a year longer than it should have to do because, this publishing industry in general is just so swarmy. It's so hard to navigate. There really isn't a company that kind of does all the elements that you need to have done, at least in my opinion, if you want the book to really, as a nonfiction author, kind of in the expert space, if you really want it to, make a big impact and income, there are certain elements and pieces that need to be there. And I just, after experiencing it for myself and spending tens of thousands of dollars on garbage services, I was like, if I could have written somebody a check to do all of these things, what would it look like? And that's kind of how Bestseller Publishing was born. What would all of these things that I needed, that I ended up either having to figure out on my own or pay 2 or 3 times as much for, could we package that all up and make it a no-brainer for people? And fortunately, we were able to do that. It's pretty cool.
So Rob, from the start of Bestseller Publishing to where we are today, how many authors have you, and how many books, from that matter, have you helped bring to market?
We're approaching 500 authors,
Right.
Just over 400 books, because, at any given time, we're probably working with 100 authors who are in, various stages of completion. And we bring on, 15 to 20 new ones every single month now. And that's growing. So, the team's grown, and it's I love the people I work with. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and Rob has broken down the process, and maybe you could speak a little bit. You have a methodology, and and if you want to share with the listeners, I think it's really good at a high level, the basics of it, because I think it's really a great way for people not only just to think about how they position getting a book out there. There's a lot of ideas in there that they can translate to their own business.
Yeah. I mean, we call it publish, promote, profit. And, from my perspective, those are all the key elements that you need to go from idea, conception of an idea, all the way through to really making the kind of impact and income that becomes like this virtuous cycle, we call it. One of my clients came up with that, which is cool, where, your platform and your celebrity continue to grow using your book or using new books that you're writing. So Publish is everything surrounding the creation of the right book, the book that attracts your ideal client, and then the publishing of that, which includes just some mechanical elements, but doing it right. Promotion is everything having to do with making the book a bestseller. And quite frankly, traditional publishers will tell you that they're not even interested in you unless you have a really big platform. And what I've been able to do and what our clients do is we actually use the book to build our platform instead of the other way around. So we turn that on its head. And then profit is, where the rubber meets the road. And we focus on, instead of focusing on royalties, we focus on big checks. We want speaking engagements. We want to generate leads with the book, and we want to, make a really big difference on media and PR. Yeah. So those are the three elements.
I'll say this. I feel like one of those guys, not only am I as a client and the value, I'm also a client. The coolest part about having a book is that one, there is some importance to having a really good message, and a lot of people have these messages, and look, it's hard. People are working in their own careers, or they have the ideas, or they might not have the right time to actually do it. And writing is hard, and putting the idea together is there. Once the finished package is done, and I have seen, to your point, the way people struggled in piecemealing a lot of this together, and even dealing with traditional publishers who didn't promote their book the way that they wanted to, or they didn't have the right name, or they were almost big enough to have a name, so they didn't really get the true benefit from it. What was really effective is not in the first year of my book being out. It's the fact that my book is still selling and that people still ask for it. And then I use it as a tool, whether sending it out as you do in different ways. I offer it when I speak in engagements or in consulting projects. And every now and then I'll literally look online and see people ordering it in multiple different countries, which freaks you out every now and then. But on the same sense, it's a powerful platform that isn't a one-time deal. And that's one of the things that Rob's company does a really good part, is like the constant promotion or re-promotion of your message is a great way to connect what you do to other people. It could be, like you said, whether it's speaking or services, consulting services, I've seen people do a great job of. So you have an unbelievable list of authors, some of the most fascinating people. Can you share what you do with your listeners, though, once a week? Because this is actually one of the best ways I've heard a company continue to connect and grow, because it's constantly popping up on my email once a week. I'm still getting the messages, Rob. Tell us a little bit about what you do for your clients. Go ahead.
We do this thing called BSPU, Bestseller Publishing University. And basically every Tuesday, I jump on and I do both a Facebook Live, which is only 10 or 15 minutes, and I do it on Zoom for our current clients. And I'll share, something that's working really, really well, either in my business in attracting clients or the things that we want, or our clients. What a client is doing that's working really well. I'll share the details of it and how our clients can kind of imitate it. And then I just open it up for Q&A, which is a lot of fun. It's, that's just part of my joy, if you will. I like communicating in that way. I like being on the spot a little bit and answering questions. Some people don't like that, but that's my way of creating content, if you will.
Well, that's good stuff. Two other questions before we get to some of the fun questions I've always wanted to ask Rob Kosberg.
Nice.
So we'll start off with the one here, and that is, would you have ever thought that you would be the head of a book publishing company ever in your entire life?
No way. No, I would have seen myself as a race car driver before I'd seen myself as a book publisher. Which unfortunately I think I'm too old for that, but man, I'd love to give that a try.
Oh, man. And I ask this to every guest that comes on to the show, Rob. When you have trouble thriving, who do you turn to get back on the thriving track? I almost like to say, who's your personal sensei that you seek out when you are having a little bit of an off day?
Yeah. I don't have one particular person, but I do have several. And so, at this point, I'm grateful for how well the business is doing. And so I'm in 3 mastermind groups, 3 separate groups that I pay a significant sum to, that are all very, very different. And they're all, offer, quite unique advice. And so, even during our worst time back in 2008, when everything had dried up, that's where the inception of this idea all came from. It came from, mentors that had been there before me, and that I could say, hey, I'm in this position. What do you think? And I got advice and moved forward on it. So I have several people that I do that with. And maybe this is cliche, but I love to read. I didn't as a kid, and I didn't in like high school, even in college. Maybe it was because of what I was reading. But man, I am always reading a new book or two, some that my clients do and some that are just suggested to me. And those keep you motivated. I mean, they give you great insight. Where else can you get, like Ray Dalio wrote his book. He runs the biggest hedge fund in the world. He's a multi-billionaire, and he wrote his book Principles. Where are you going to get, that kind of advice and insight from, a self-made billionaire like him for $20? Right. It's crazy. So, anybody that doesn't take advantage of that kind of thing is just, they're insane. Such an opportunity.
When you look at the library of all the content that's out there, what's the wackiest topic and book that you've had come through your doors? And I say this because, look, you have lots of leadership books and sales books and obviously books of good stories or personal achievement. But has there ever been one that literally you just shook your head and said, what's this guy going to be writing about?
Well, there have been several. I hesitate to share any specific titles, as you might imagine. But I'll tell you one. We don't do many fiction books, very, very few. In fact, 99% of our clients are nonfiction, coaches, consultants, experts, that kind of thing. But occasionally we'll run across one where somebody just says, no, I understand that you don't do many of these, but I want what you offer and blah, blah, blah. And so we did one where a guy wrote this whole kind of a pseudo Christian fiction thing on Lucifer and the devil. And it was pretty crazy. But the amazing thing, the book has done, it's like done off the charts. In fact, we got the guy on TV in Chicago, wow. Which is a major market for a book on Lucifer. I'm like, I was telling our PR people, I'm like, I don't know how you did that. Total respect here. So, some of the craziest ones you find, wow, there's cool success there.
It definitely, and look, I've come across, I come across a lot of authors, obviously, on the show, and we're pretty selective. A lot of the books fall into those people that are, have great and have achieved something that they're thriving on. And every now and then we get one. I just recently had someone coming in who he's been on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about the age of obsolete, like basically that the world, all of the doomsday scenarios, but how it's affecting the job market. And people are like, oh my God, what is this about? But meanwhile, it's fascinating. And it's a really in-depth look. So some of the stuff you think is there, truly, you can't judge a book by its cover. How many cliches have we hit about books so far on this podcast? I think
just about all of them.
All right, we're good. Well, we'll close the book on this one. And
that's good. Close the chapter.
So if you could, do me a favor. Give us all the plugs on where people can find Bestseller Publishing, learn more about you, social media, et cetera, so they can learn more about Rob and your company.
I love that. Thank you. Best place to begin is our main website, bestsellerpublishing.org. There are tons of case studies, tons of various success stories that may inspire somebody to take the steps they need to on their own personal journey, whether we help them or not. So that's always a good place to begin.
Great. And we'll put all the links on the site too, as well, so that everybody has it. I have 2 more questions because one is like a bonus here for Rob. And that is, we'll start off with the standard Thrive Loud question. Rob, your all-time favorite movie?
I have a bunch of them, but I'm going to say Braveheart is my all-time favorite movie. I love that movie.
What's really strange is that we get the Godfathers and a lot of Shawshank Redemption. We tend to be, but we do get Braveheart gets a pretty good plug in there. I think that, and aside from that end scene when they're gutting the poor guy.
I mean, wow!
But the book is absolutely the movie's amazing, and he's awesome in it, so it's great. Okay, and now more fittingly, what is your favorite book of all time?
Wow. Good question.
That isn't one of your clients. Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to say that isn't one of my clients. I don't think you're going to like this answer. My favorite book always tends to be the one I'm reading right now. To be just super honest. I mean, I've already mentioned it. I love Ray Dalio's book, Principles. I think it's so cool. I'm in the process of reading it right now. I'm like thoroughly enjoying it. I have 3 or 4 others right behind it that I'm reading, but it's long. It's, I don't know, 400 plus pages. I'm just fascinated by, I guess the older I've gotten, and my kids have, are 2 are out of the house. 1 is 17, still at home. And, you just, have like this window into people's lives, and, especially the ones that have lived these, lives of success and failure, on really big levels. It's just fascinating, to hear about it in their own words. And he's a pretty humble guy. At least he comes across that way in the book. So I don't know if you like that answer, but it's always the one that I'm currently reading that I just love.
If it comes from an authentic place, man, it's the right answer. So there's nothing. There's always a lot.
It is.
Rob Kosberg, thank you so much, man, for coming on Thrive Loud today. This has been fun.
Yeah, Lou, thanks, man. You're awesome. Loved working with you, and appreciate your friendship, man. We still got to get out on the links.
We do. We have this golf date that's been TBD on there. You know what? And I do have a trip coming to California soon. So we probably should, after we get off the air, we'll coordinate and try to make that happen.
Let's pencil it in, my friend.
I like it. Awesome. Thank you again for coming on the show, man. This has been great. And to all the Thrive Lab listeners out there, thanks for joining us. And until next time, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Thrive Loud. Or find us on the web at thriveloud.com.